This week, we're making movies with camcorders. Building a heads-up display for a car. And finding out if plasma tellies are any good.
Are we on? There are about 100 different camcorders on the market, all of them offering enormous zooms, megapixels, and tiny weeny tapes. So, buying one can become a bit of a blur. However, don't panic, don't worry, because we are here to help.
We're going to arm you with some essential information, and never mind shambling around just filming feet, we're going to make movies.
The great thing about domestic camcorders is that they're so good even the pros use them. Take the Blair Witch Project, made for peanuts, but it grossed £130 million. With that kind of earning potential, these are gadgets worth knowing about.
Right, I finished it. Do you want to see it?
Welcome to the world of heads-up displays, where essential information magically appears in front of your very eyes. Well, it does if you're a fighter pilot. But wouldn't it be great if we could all get them in our cars? Trouble is, they're really tricky to install. BMW ended up asking someone else to build the version in their latest 5 Series. But it can't be that difficult to make your own heads-up display. I've got the theory down pat, I've got a car to put it in, and I've been shopping around in some of the local computer fairs to get all the components. Wish me luck. Okay, so we start off with the brains of the operation, a computer. I actually made this thing myself, but it's essentially the same as your 1 gigahertz PC at home or at work, but it's a lot smaller, and it also works off 12 volts, which is great for an in-car environment. Into the back of this thing, I'm going to plug a GPS, a global positioning system, and the combination of those two devices will give me the display and the details I'm looking for, my position, speed, compass bearing, that sort of thing. But of course, it all has to be powered, and that is done simply by using one of these. It's called a power inverter. Without getting too technical, it uses the plain old cigarette lighter. So now we come to the heads-up display itself. And I've decided to emulate the kind of design that you'll find in an F-16 or a Tornado. This is essentially how it works. Imagine I'm a pilot, okay? I'm sat in my cockpit, I'm looking out of the window. What you find in those kinds of aircraft is a monitor about here looking upwards. Between it and my view outside is a piece of glass at 45 degrees. This piece of glass reflects whatever the monitor displays, but there's a problem. The glass flips the image. So the output of that monitor has got to be mirrored. It sounds really, really simple. You think you could solve it with software. But this almost scuppered my entire mission until this little baby came along. And this was the only one I could find. It's actually used in sports utility vehicles in the States. So big old Americans put cameras in the bumper, and they have a monitor like this instead of a mirror, and it flips the image round. So it's just like looking in your reversing mirror. And that goes there. Okay, so now I'll come to the final element, the actual head-up display itself. Et voila, it's a CD case. Isn't this fantastic? I'm so chuffed with myself for coming up with this. It's a normal CD case, well, half of one actually, to be more precise, and just flick it out. Isn't that absolutely fantastic? Exactly the right size. Mounted on a little stand above the monitor, the CD case looks the business. But will it all work? Well, after a little bit of tidying up, taping and strapping everything down securely, and neatening up the wires, we should be ready to try the system for the very first time. Okay, well, if I'm not mistaken, I reckon I've just about reached my goal. Everything seems to be working reasonably well. It's taken a bit longer than I thought. It's night time now, well, that's not a bad thing. The HUD will probably work better with lower light. And if all goes to plan, if I connect these two cables, we should get something on the head-up display fingers crossed, here we go. Yes, look at that. Wow, that looks amazing. It's much brighter than I thought it was. It's absolutely stunning. On the left-hand side is my speedometer. On the right-hand side, that's a compass. That'll show me whether I'm going north or south or whatever. In the middle's a little cursor on the top of some roads, and that represents my car's position. So if I start moving, that should move with me. It's absolutely amazing. Out on the road, it was even better. The image on the screen was clear and strong, but in no way impeded my view of the road ahead. Hopefully you can see there's a car, and you can see it clearly. You can see every single detail. You can see the number plate, the lights, everything. It's all clearly visible through the HUD. But at the same time, I can also attend to the data on the screen. All of that while still being able to see the car, the traffic lights, and the road markings ahead. I have to say, I'm chuffed to bits. I've proved that you can build a head-up display in your car. With a little more work, I reckon I can get any information I want off the dashboard and up on the HUD. And if you want a fact sheet on how you can build your own heads-up display, tough. I've got the only one, and I intend to keep it that way.
Right, camcorders. Now, if all you want to do is film the odd family get-together, then something like this will be fine. An analogue camera that films onto Hi-8 tapes. They cost about £200, and I promise they are really simple to operate. So, if you just need it a couple of times a year, you'll never forget how to use it.
But we'd like to inspire you to take things a little bit more seriously and become filmmakers. Now for that, you'll need a digital format that can easily be edited on your home computer. And the current market leader is Mini DV. 60-minute tapes cost £4, and cameras range from £300 to £2,500. But whatever your budget, the buying advice remains the same. Hang on, Suzi, hang on. Time for lesson 1. Ignore massive zoom figures. This camera has 2 types of zoom, optical and digital. 10 times optical and 50 times digital. 10 multiplied by 50 gives you a headline-grabbing 500 times zoom. But ignore this number.
Optical zoom is real zoom. The lenses move inside the camera and I get bigger. Lovely. Digital zoom is electronic trickery that magnifies the image but degrades the quality. It also makes it harder to keep the picture steady.
So the rule is, ignore the digital zoom number and buy the camera with the biggest optical zoom you can afford. Okay, Suzi, action! Don't jump. Okay, Suzi, I'm ready.
Hang on a sec. Here's a top tip for you. Have you ever thought about the width of your lens? Because to be honest, in a party situation, when you're trying to get a group shot, these things are generally hopeless. You've either got to stand about a mile away or everybody's got to squeeze tightly together so you can fit everybody in. What you need is the widest lens possible. And for that, you need to look here.
You're looking for the numbers separated by a dash, indicating the range of the lens. Here it's 4.2 to 42. The smaller the numbers, the wider the shot. So in this case, the camera with a 3.3 to 33 lens will be wider.
Camera 1 chops the ends of the car off, but stands in the same place with camera 2, and the wider lens gets the whole car in.
Action!
Aha! The camera recognises colour using a CCD, charged coupled device. Now here's one some buffoon broke earlier. Basically, the camera's eye is a microchip. Now, more expensive cameras don't have just one, they have 3 chips. One to take care of the blues, one for the reds, and one for the greens.
Adrian's powers of improvisation help demonstrate. The 3-chip camera handles flesh tones much better, even indoors. It was time to film the climax to our chase. The effect is known as bullet time, where the action freezes and the camera keeps on moving. It's been around for a while, but it was made famous by The Matrix. The DVDs are in the shops now, so you can check it out for yourself. Basically, you need to line up a load of cameras to all take the same shot, but from slightly different angles. Then when the material is run together, it should give that frozen in time look.
The tapes were carefully labelled to ensure we'd later edit the shots in the right order. The cameras were carefully focused on the same point, then it was just a case of getting Suzi to strut her stuff. Join us later to see if it works.
Action!
The nation's favourite gadget is without a doubt this. The television. It's the gadget we use more than any other. In fact, right now, I'd bet it's the only gadget you're using.
But buying a new one for your living room has never been so complicated. As well as conventional glass tube tellies, the shops are full of plasma screens and LCD flat panels. The choice has never been greater. But the first decision is easy. Don't buy an old-fashioned square screen. These days, most TV programmes are shot in wide format, and to see them at their best, you definitely need a widescreen TV.
So which one's right for you? Well, let's start with the glamorous and expensive option.
Plasma turned the telly from a box in the corner into an object of lust. Despite the big picture up to 61 inches on the diagonal, they're magically slim and a great way of showing off to your mates. But you could end up spending a lot of money for a picture that's worse than the one on your old TV.
Even cheap plasmas aren't cheap. They start at about £2,000 for this 42-incher. Here's another one, same size, £2,500. And it's these bottom-of-the-range sets that tend to show the worst problems. To find out why, we need to take a closer look.
The word plasma conjures up ideas of a screen full of thick, shape-shifting, oozing liquid.
But what's actually inside it, in this layer here, are millions and millions of tiny little gas-filled light bulbs, red, green and blue. And they're turned on and off very quickly by a computer hidden somewhere in the back there. That's what makes up the picture. The trouble is that processing all that information through the computer takes time and leaves the pictures lagging behind the sound. The best plasma screens have good circuits built in to compensate for the delay. The worst ones are rather flaky, which is really annoying and leaves everything looking just like a cheap kung fu movie.
The other problem is those light bulbs can't always change brightness accurately enough or over a decent range, so the pictures can lack contrast, colours can be washed out, and bits of the picture that change brightness gradually can be covered in strange lines and swirls.
The latest plasmas are now really rather good, and if you're able to spend £3 or £4,000, you're unlikely to be disappointed.
Next, LCD screens. LCD stands for liquid crystal display. They tend to be smaller and somewhat cheaper than plasmas, but they're just as slim, generate brighter colours, and are great at displaying text, which is why they're often used as computer screens.
Personally, I think that all LCD pictures look rather synthetic, and that something the size of this 15-inch one is actually only fit for a computer. It would look completely silly, marooned in the middle of your living room. And again, stand by to be disappointed by the cheaper screens. With some, if you're not actually looking at them straight on, the picture starts to fade away. And that's not the only irritation. The individual LCDs can't turn on and off that quickly. So when something's moving fast across the screen, there's a sort of smearing effect. No problem if you watch a lot of bowls, messy if you prefer football.
So where does that leave the cathode ray tube? Well, as long as you remember to avoid those old square ones where you can miss half the action, it's a fact that the best pictures still come from the original glass tube telly. Of course, they're fat and bulky without offering anything like the picture size of plasmas, but they are an awful lot cheaper, and some of the best tube tellies are amongst the cheapest at under £500. The more expensive ones have features which claim to make the picture better by processing it digitally. But
in my experience, the extra processing often makes things look more artificial. So don't take everything you hear in the shop or read in the brochure at face value. Instead, take a good long hard look at the pictures.
So, the rational advice is to hold on, while plasmas get cheaper and better. And if you really must buy a new telly now, get a cheapish conventional one.
This is Tom Dunmore, the editor of top-selling gadget magazine Stuff. He's here to give you the inside track on what's latest, what's best, and what's next. This week, mobile phones.
Okay, the very latest phone, the one that's getting everybody excited at the moment, is this Motorola. It's called the MPX. It's an incredibly smart smartphone. It's pretty much an entire computer shrunk down to fit in your pocket. And what sets it apart is that it's got Wi-Fi wireless networking. That means really, really fast internet download speeds. The other favourite feature of mine is it looks like it's been designed by Mr. Rubik or something, because it doesn't just work like this. You can close it and niftily open it up like this, and it's like a little laptop computer or something. Pretty awesome little phone. I can't wait for the actual working one to come through. In terms of the best stuff that's out there at the moment, one of the country's big favourites is this new Sharp GX30. This is sort of the latest incarnation of the Beckham phone. What sets this one apart from the competition is that the digital camera is 1 megapixel, which means you can print them out, basically. If you transfer them to a computer, you could print them out 6x4 as you would do your old film pictures, and they'd look pretty decent. Moving on, I think my favourite phone is the Sony Ericsson P900. This is the sort of uber smartphone. It does have a little pokey thing, as all good smartphones should have. It's got handwriting recognition on there. It is a little bit difficult to use. The menu system isn't as intuitive as you might find on a Nokia phone, for example. But it is for your geeks out there. And frankly, I'm proud to be a geek, so I'm going to keep using a P900. However, it's a bit big to take out with you on a night out. So the Siemens SL55, this will fit just about anywhere. It's just a phone, it doesn't do loads of extras, it doesn't have a camera, but it does have lovely little slide down action there. But this is the future, Nokia's 5140. This has a unique feature that we will actually see in every other mobile within a year, and that's called push-to-talk. It's already a big hit in America. What push-to-talk does is turn your phone into a walkie-talkie, essentially. You will see on your screen all the people in your buddy list who have their phones turned on, and you know that you can immediately talk to those people. All you have to do is press the button and speak into your phone, and your voice screams out of all of those other people's phones, whether they're sitting in a meeting, having a romantic meal. If they switch their phone on, they're open, they're game for you screaming at them. Frankly, just enjoy the peace now while you can.
Time for the final stage of our movie-making extravaganza. Now, you saw us earlier shooting the scenes, and we've got all our raw material right here on these tapes. And you could show it to your friends like this, but you'd have to fast-forward through all the rubbish bits, and believe me, there's quite a lot. So what would be much cooler is if you could edit the best bits together, and apparently it's never been easier.
Get down, everybody.
I'm going to try out iMovie, basic editing software that comes with all Macs. First, you connect the camera with a FireWire so you can play the tape into the computer.
Award-winning, I think you'll agree.
1 hour of tape takes 1 hour to import and uses up about 12 gigabytes of storage. When it's done, a palette of footage is automatically made, so you simply click and drag your shots into the order you want them. Except playing them like this still leaves room for improvement. You need to make some cuts to keep the action thick and fast and realistic.
We need to go into trim mode and just carefully edge back and remove the bits that we don't want. And also with this shot, we'll just trim forward, getting rid of the nonsense at the start. Now when I press play, it should look like a snappy action sequence. Well, as snappy as Adrian can be.
Come here, Perry!
Hey, that's quite good. As simple as that. And I think that I can add to the drama because I've got a close-up of Adrian just kicking the door. So if I drop that shot in between those two, then press play, hey presto.
Come here, Perry!
Oh, she's made me look like a young Bruce Willis. While Suzi finishes editing our movie, I can tell you about the more advanced editing packages. we'd recommend Final Cut on the Mac, which costs £250, or Avid's DV Express for the PC, which is about £500. That's a stripped-down version of what the Gadget Show is edited with, and has plenty of toys, like telling the computer to only superimpose an image on the blue.
As for the bullet time, well, we experimented with the length of each shot, and in the end, we were well pleased. It may look a bit homemade, but it cost us nothing.
Right, I finished it. Do you want to see it?
Aha! Come here, Perry! Ha-ha! Well, come back. Ah, Suzi! I've been expecting you.
Go, 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 go!
I came in through the front undercarriage.
The HTC Vive allows you to physically move around in a set space. Your cleared-out living room, for example,